Welcome to one of the most painfully textured maps that I have ever seen in my entire life. It is called Melancholy Hill, but the brightness of the green would belie the name. Our opponents are a Chief Jaguar on the south side and Turin Bar on the north, otherwise known as Pachi. What is it with his name and repetition? I am kind of curious about that. This particular map has a ring of water in the center with a island right here, an island if Brink can English correctly. A bit of reclaim out there, 600 in total, and then there's your heat map of the reclaim everywhere else. I personally have never played on this map, but I have watched a couple games on it. One of the things that you do need to notice is that there are hardly any mass extractors in the core. So we've got one mass extractor, singular, right here. There is a good bit of mass over here, each rock totaling 10. And then there's two mass extractors to expand on the left and a pair of threes on the right for each player. Of course, there is also the plateau in the back where you are able to land some engineers out there. The disrupted terrain does not allow passage of units. And all in all, this map, while it may be a little bit of an eyesore, it does have a very interesting path that the game follows. It is a different kind of map. That is very descriptive, Brink. Surely you could think of something better than that. I don't know. We will see how these guys play it. I don't know that this map has a meta, so we'll just see how they go and hopefully copy what works. Turin on the north side is going for an air factory right off the bat and a second land factory following that. Jaguar on the south is also going for second air, third land, but he's got an additional air factory planned on the hydro. Of course, this engineer right here is basically floating his entire economy as he tries to build all the things. We've also got another engineer down here. I can alternate between tree clumps and mass, but Jaguar, realizing that he is very soon to be stalling hard on mass, he is going to move up and manually reclaim with that engineer before sending it off to go and grab a mass extractor on that side. Also, don't forget there is a 113 mass meteorite slash boulder slash whatever you want to call it over there. There's also a lot of reclaim on this side. 10 mass rocks all the way around there with another clump up on top of the hill, in addition to 4 mass extractors and a hydro up that way. So all in all, just weird placement on practically everything. Jaguar does have his transport out. He's dropping an engineer up on top of this plateau, and he is planning an additional drop on the other side. It looks like we do have bomber out first for Turin, and reclaim going down for him as well. That is going to leave us with a total of 5 land factories, 1 air factory for Turin, and 3 air factories, 3 land factories for Jaguar. This is a very weird play because this map is not locked off. It's not barricaded in any way by land. So you can have armies approaching from both sides. And of course, since it is a Seraphim symmetrical matchup, you've got Zooies that can flow across the center. But it looks like Achieved is going to go for a completely air-centric play. This bomber over here is going to end up being a bit of a nightmare for him because that is going to potentially knock out the engineers on that expansion. However, oh, nope, there it is. The bomber is looping around. Here comes the attack run. And it's not actually going to make it in. Engineers, nope. Not going to connect. Hopefully Jaguar saw that and will be able to micro his engineers, but it appears that that is not the case. There they both go. So nice pickup there for Turin. I think he may not have realized just yet that those plateaus are impassable. We'll have to see if he figures it out relatively quickly and is able to get his mass extractors down. Achieved currently running 19 mass per tick. Turin at 16, so not terribly far behind, but a little bit so. Looks like Turin is going to run up, claim the other 3, and get an additional land factory online. Still more rocks over here. The amount of mass on this map is too damn high. You basically need one dedicated land factory building nothing but engineers to just reclaim all this crap, and then you should be able to supply several land factories for land spam with the mass that you're getting. Is those little volcanoes or something? This is odd. This is definitely odd. Not to be confused with Zod. Looks like Jaguar is going to be a cheeky son of a gun and drop the other side as well. He is going to try to get all the plateaus. You're going to deny me. You're going to kill me, my engineers with a bomber. Well, then I'll just drop your plateau and take your mass extractors away from you, and we'll see how you like that. Both of these players, I think, do not have a build. This is a diseased map, according to Turin. Oh my goodness. Yeah, break the trees with the raids, and that'll be a good thing, says Farms. Last time I played this map, I had like 4 factories spamming engineers. Wow. I think if someone just took a smoothing brush to a lot of this, it would turn out a lot better. But I think part of the reason, I seem to remember a discussion about this map that was had. I don't remember who made it. And their discussion was that they wanted a map where the terrain actually mattered. So they did all of this so that units are required to be placed strategically so that they can actually shoot at each other. So we've got one ACU in each side that is going to lock down the area. Units will have a very difficult time passing indeed, seeing as I don't think that is passable. They can come around this edge and come in here, but they can't continue around this side. So effectively, this is a choke and this is a choke. Yellow is actually in front of his choke point currently. And the rest of this is kind of going to be decided by air. Very, very odd. According to Farms, he loaded it in the map editor, and there are 37,000 separate rocks and trees. Wow. That is insane. As is pointed out in the chat, why am I talking about chokes? Talking about chokes in a Seraphim matchup? Well, because it still matters for tanks. You're not going to be able to get tanks through here. You can get artillery through, which is, yes, a very big deal. But generally speaking, for how the map is going to play out, these chokes will be important in other games. Plasma Wolf says, Brink, that's a good argument with horrible execution. On every map, the terrain always matters, but this kind of height mapping to obstruct units at every turn is not a good thing to have. WGF Boom, how can you get like 100k E reclaim in 15 minutes without a sentence group anyway? I think this map would definitely be a contender for that, because just look at it. Look at all of the trees. A lot of those are clumps. Needs more NGs. Well, I was hoping that this would be a little less stagnant than it has turned out to be. Looks like Turin is going to move his ACU into his opponent's base, which is odd, shall we say? Definitely odd. Achieve Jaguar is behind in eco, surprisingly enough, but that is probably due to additional reclaim on Turin's side.
Under attack.
12,000 power, 5,000 mass reclaim. On Turin's side, 8,000 mass, almost double, and 30,000 power reclaim for Achieve Jaguar. Wow. As Turin calls out suicide alert and struggles to pull his ACU back. I'm not even sure that the ACU can get submerged in the water. It looks like the terrain is broken up here so that the ACU cannot pathfind into the bay. This looks like a hole that can be gotten into. That does not. And there may be a break in the middle that prevents units going across the bottom. That's weird. This is so ridiculous. Okay. Oh, brilliant! We had a drop up on the north side, so Turin is going to be able to secure this mesa once again, I think. If he focus fires the point events, he could have gotten it. He's now traveling away, and he might get really lucky. He might get really, really lucky unless this point defense vets. Oh my goodness. He is actually going... Oh, there it is. Okay. So the point defense was not able to hit the tank that it was shooting at because of the terraforming of the terrain that happened when the land factory was built. And the tanks, because of the higher trajectory of the projectile, were able to hit the point defense. That was one of the most absurd engagements I've ever seen. Ridiculous. So Turin does have engineers up there. He will be able to resecure that. And now we're going to see another drop. More tanks coming on in. Maybe we'll see that pushed around to the other edge. Although it would appear that, yes, he is going to drop some more up on the plateau. Just to be sure. Just to be sure. Because when you do have a land factory still online, those artilleries can be sons of guns. And that is going to be all she wrote on that. I think... Oh, that's creative. A Cellin actually got into the back. Jaguar has to be able to see that. It's not cloaked. Yes, he can. And that's providing free intel for Turin on the rear plateau. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Achieve Jaguar up to 63 mass per tick versus Turin with 34. Holy kashmolis, that is a lot of mass. And that is mostly due to the 3 T2 mass extractors up there, the one over here, and the slightly superior map control that has been exerted over the course of this game, namely the units back here that were able to stall that claiming for a very long time indeed. Turin is going to be able to get the center island, which is something to be proud of, I suppose. But in the end, it doesn't even matter, because 57 to 41 is still a pretty substantial economic lead. Something that might be an option. Oh my goodness, he is actually building a naval factory. What? So the little frigates are going to be able to do ring around the rosy on the center. And be of very little additional use. I bet this is so that units can't go into that pond. So why even put the pond there? Why not just not have the pond? Odd. Very odd. T1 point defense is going to kill off a few units there, but it's not going to come out ahead in the end. I think that this run by has the potential to do a fair bit of damage, especially considering how many units are here, because this many can kill these tanks without too much trouble, not even considering the fact that there is an ACU nearby. And then all of these mass extractors are going to go down, which will be a pretty significant dent in Turin's income. Then also on the left, we have an additional run-by happening. It's probably going to take out all of the build power on that air factory, which will be a devastating blow in and of itself. And then the center here is going to be able to hold, at least for the time being, versus Achieved. And for everyone who said at the beginning of this, or the one person who did, that, oh, the choke points don't matter because it's Seraphim. You see how this game is going? You see what is happening? You need tanks. You can't survive on artillery alone. And to get tanks over there, you either need transports or you need to go through the choke points. Achieved definitely taking out the vast majority of the build power there, possibly even the factory itself. No, Most likely not, because there is a point fence online. Although said point fence is under heavy artillery fire, so might not be there for very long. And a Jeep Jaguar, on the other hand, is about to face off against these units relatively alone with his ACU. He does have units that can come in, but they've got to get across the terrain first, which, as we've seen here, is somewhat of a task. The terrain height map on this is legitimately giving me a headache, I think. Even in the home base, let's take a look at this. You've got some flat ground to build some factories. But then when you move over this way, you've got another land factory down, but looking at the ground around it, let's see how much we can actually build here. Okay, so there's like a trench that you can build in right here. And then it kind of sort of runs around that way. So this would be another area that you could build in. But looking at the height map here, I would be willing to bet that once you start placing factories and the terraforming happens, you're going to lose build space from the terraforming. Oh, hello, Mr. Drop. Perhaps you would be so kind as to not function correctly. Looks like that is actually going for the rear base here, but the interceptors will be able to pick it up, no problem whatsoever. Jaguar dropping a T1 anti-air to deal with the bombers in the area. And in the meantime, all of these T1 tanks are going to try to take out a couple of mass extractors and overall harass the right-hand side. Jaguar now at roughly 65% map control, maybe 70%, and he is about to move on the main base. So I think that this is wrapping up. Just waiting on the collapse. By the time you need facts there, you have T2 and T3. I don't know that that's the truth. It might be, because you also have build space going off this way. I was just kind of thinking build space in general, because it doesn't appear to be a super conducive map for build space. Especially when you have all of these disruptions over here. Oh my goodness, Jaguar is starting an attack launcher. You son of a gun. That is a dirty move. He's going to tack off probably the HQ over here. Maybe the T2 power generator. I do see gunships on the field, which is a pretty nice thing. Jaguar does have T2 land at his disposal, so a flak here, a flak there, here, flak there, flak everywhere, a flak is probably going to be sufficient to protect him. He does have enough interceptors to deny any kind of snipe attempt. So all in all, I think is in a pretty good spot. And then of course, considering the land control and the economic advantage, it is rather insurmountable. There goes the first tack launch. Will there be TMD that's put up in time to save everything? I think not, especially considering that the T2 power generator explosion is going to take out the engineer that could have possibly gone and built the TMD. Looks like Jaguar is going to go after the support factories, which is kind of odd. I would have dropped a double tack on the HQ in hopes of eliminating that, especially considering how little build power is in the area. But to each his own, and Jaguar does seem to be doing a reasonably fair job of killing everything off around here, so. Gunships moving in to the south side. This is not going to be particularly good, because Jaguar is going to lose 3 mass extractors here. Oh, that is nasty. And then we have a torpedo bomber out on the ACU itself. So I think the ACU is going to have to start building anti-air. Oh my goodness. Jaguar might get himself sniped. Move the flak to your commander. You literally have a flak right next to you. Although he does have several thousand HP, so it might not even be that he needs to come out of the water. Reclaiming the frigate on his way. And Turin calling out RIP and quitting, leaving achieved with the win on that game. So he saw the flak there, he started losing his torpedo bombers and decided to call it. I think that even if Turin had been able to knock out all of the mass extractors on the back, maybe even get some more economic advantage besides that, I don't think he would have been able to come back. Because Jaguar simply had too many dang units for him to overcome. So that is going to leave Achieve Jaguar with the win, knocking him back up into the winner's bracket. So we're going to see him competing for the final. And I believe that leaves, yeah, I think that leaves Turin with the third place prize. Well done indeed to both of these players. And I'm sorry that you had to play on such a cataclysm of a map. That was not pleasant. Not pleasant at all. We have arrived at the finals. It's going to be a best out of 3, so we got at least 2 games in front of us. First one is going to be on Blasted Rock. Of course, our competitors are Congreve on the left-hand side and Achieve Jaguar, or right-hand side, sorry, and Achieve Jaguar on the left. Cross your fingers and hope that my voice holds because it has started cracking something fierce. Haven't been casting recently, and it kind of does wear down. All right, so Jaguar is dropping first land factory. He is walking in and picking up a mass extractor or 2, followed by 3 power generators. Of course, Blasted Rock does not have a hydro right next to your base. There are a couple to expand to, but not any that you can take advantage of immediately. Congreve, on the other side, is also going for a first land factory, followed by 2 power generators, 2 mass extractors, 3 power generators, and a second land factory. I do believe that any form of air within the first 3 factories is going to spell doom, because there is a T1 anti-air in the center of this map. This is a tiny, tiny, tiny map, not to be underestimated in its smallness. And you're basically just going to need all of the land units that you can possibly put together in order to hit the other player. This seems a little bit imbalanced because while we do have 2 point events evenly spaced in here, there is an extra T2 power generator on the right side. Seems like it's not evenly set. I don't know. Whoever gets in the middle, that is such a tight space, it probably doesn't matter. The 2 people are not going to be able to counter reclaim each other. All right, Achieve Jaguar dropping down power generator number 5, followed immediately by the next land factory. Looks like Congreve is slightly ahead, but not too terribly much. Did pick up a little bit of manual reclaim in the back. He's also going with this other engineer as well. And then picking up the hydro and mass extractor to his north. Achieve Jaguar is doing much the same, but is also doubled up on the expansion to the south as well. So that's going to put him a fair bit ahead moving into the middle portion of the game, getting his extractors a lot more quickly and hopefully feeding his need for tanks to a greater degree than Congreve is able. We've also got some beautiful adjacency here. Power generators being adjacent to 2 land factories, and we've also got every single factory adjacent to a mass extractor. If I remember correctly, that is somewhere around like a 4.5% decrease in cost, so it's not going to show up too terribly well. It says these are pulling -3, but they're not. Yeah. Anyway, you are getting a discount, so for every few land factories, you will get an extra land factory, and you will come out ahead of an opponent who is not building adjacent. We've got 8 land factories planned for Congreve, That is going to put him in dire need of reclaim to keep him fully supplied. And I do love the little bit of raiding that's going on over here. We've got a Selen coupled with 2 tanks that's going to be able to quite easily destroy the engineer that was on this side, slowing down that expansion yet further. And we do have an attempted raid from Congreve from the north, but with these 3 tanks in hand, a Chief Jaguar should be able to put a stop to that. I think that he does have a bit of radar coverage here. We'll split up and take a look at these guys in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to have to use the console commands to split apart into their viewpoints since I am a direct observer in this game. But for the most part, these guys are looking relatively even. We've got 2.2k on the scoreboard. Looks like both expansions claimed for a Chief Jaguar. 1 fully for Congreve, but Congreve has also picked up extra mass extractors in the northern quadrant, as the Chief Jaguar has not done in the south. So all in all, pulling neck and neck. Jaguar working on his 5th, I cannot count, 5th land factory, as number 5 has already come online for Congreve, and number 6 is 25% complete. So the land spam is going to slightly favor the red in the early portion of the game, but hopefully Jaguar can get enough stuff online later that it will not particularly matter that much. We're already seeing a expansion fall on the left flank for Jaguar. And it's not going to be a pretty thing, but hopefully with the arrival of our next factories, bringing the total to 8, same as his opponent, Jaguar will be able to pull even. Oh, point defense going down. This is one of those things where point defense is actually quite useful in this situation. It does have the range to reach out about to right there. So you are going to be able to run by it, but it is difficult. You won't be able to run by with a large squad. And since mostly tanks are on the field right now, we haven't seen many artillery that will be able to at least slow down the oncoming units. Congreve is getting very brave here. He's decided that he wants to go directly for the base. He is going to whittle away at the numbers of tanks on the outside edge, trying to pester Jaguar as much as possible. There is a point defense coming online in the front, so that will push him back ever so slightly, but that is still quite the bad thing to have happening. It's going to put Congreve in control of a superior portion of the map. He's going ahead and killing off the stuff in the center here so that he can take this mass away. And then he succeeded in getting full control of the northern side, as well as denying both intermediate expansions. So Jaguar is going to have 3 slots. Congreve is going to control 5. Congreve falling back just a little bit. You don't want to get him caught up in one of these bad situations that we've seen people fall into before. But he is doing okay. So they're just going to continue sparring on the front. Unupgraded ACUs facing off. Not doing too terribly much damage to each other or to the opposing forces, but definitely making this situation quite a bit more tense in the center there. So that's going to be all the defenses down on this edge. Engineers coming in to try and reclaim the mass. I think Jaguar does know, though, that those are down. I'm going to go ahead and pop into his view, even though a fair bit is happening at the moment. We're going to set focus army. Oop. Hold on, let Brink learn to type. Set focus army 0. Pop that in. That's going to be Jaguar. 23 mass income with 2,500 reclaimed. And as far as our tank counts go, that's going to be 36 tanks, 10 artillery. $47 tanks and 15 artillery is going to give Congreve a huge numerical advantage, as well as being ahead in eco. 2,500, same reclaim, but 33 mass per tick. So if Jaguar does not do something to get some map control down here, then he might be in a bad spot. Congreve still able to harass around the outside edges, going to pull this mass extractor offline here, Looks like Jaguar is going to take the gamble and go for gun upgrade, so he may be able to swing the tide with this. We're just going to have to see if he survives long enough to pull it off against this vast number of tanks. We've got 7 land factories still, no more being planned. And on the right-hand side, we have a full dozen with number 13 coming online. Congreve is feeding his forces with reclaim, and it is showing its fantastic potential for destruction right now. I'm going to click over here, bring this up, and that is all fine. Jaguar's actually paused his land factories. We saw someone die in this tournament already because they paused the land factory to get what they thought was an important upgrade, and in reality all it did was lose them the game since they couldn't keep up with the production. But hopefully if this gun upgrade comes online, he'll be able to press this back. This is a critical failure over here though. We've got 4 mass extractors that are going to go offline in the expansion, knocking Jaguar's score down further as his economy suffers. Might even lose a 5th, and then that threatens his other expansion, which contains a hydro as well. Congreve does not have any upgrades on his ACU, but he does now know that there is a gun commander in the mix. Basically, Jaguar just has to hope that he can hold on to the right side for long enough to eat through all the units at Congreve's disposal and then start hammering away at the bases on this edge. Congreve, realizing what is going on, is going to pull his units in, try to kill yet more of the population in this base. All he has to do is send a couple of units over that way, and he will be fine. Jaguar having to push a few of his units over in order to defend this side, although no, he has selected all of them and moved, reorienting his position, and that is going to be just fine. Achieved slowing down just a little bit here as he comes into contact with a T1 point defense. All of those tanks slowing his progress to a pretty significant degree. He does have a vet. He is at 10,000 HP still, so he does have the room to push. But he is now losing his other hydro and that mass extractor. Let's go take a look at what his... there we go.
Commander under attack.
That is going to be 228 power income surplus. So he is doing all right. He is able to float some overcharges now and then when he really, really needs to. And he is running a sufficient amount of mass. Not a great amount of mass, but a sufficient amount of mass. Let's pull set focus army 1. That's going to be 35 mass income. Hard 45 stall. Good lord. Plus 36 power. So basically, Congreve has been forcing all of his economy to the detriment of his forces into T1 units. And when you're stalled to that degree, sometimes you end up in a worse situation because you'll notice his gun upgrade is barely moving. It will move a couple of ticks when he gets reclaim, and in the meantime, every minute that he waits, Jaguar is wrecking more and more of his expansion. However, once he gets the gun upgrade online, he may be able to push this back, and if that's the case, then he'll be able to get all this reclaim in hand and feed those factories to his heart's content. We've got more land factories coming online for Jaguar as he realizes the extremity of his production deficit. These might be able to take the hydro offline, and this is going to hit very hard because Congreve has not built additional power. When we paged him before, he was at 28 energy surplus. This hydro is worth 100. So if Jaguar is able to kill that, that'll put him at a 75-ish mass power stall, forcing some of his factories to be turned off, but unfortunately he just was not able to get it. Looks like the commander is rotating to the north, finishing off all those units up there. Congreve is approaching the end of his gun upgrade, so that's going to get him back on track and also in a better position on his power income. Jaguar pulling back towards the south. He was able to build a couple of mass extractors there. He's got his expansion back and 1 mechs on that side. However, Congreve has finished building all of the mass extractors here and has claimed all of these expansions. So his map control is still superior, and also Achieved is now about to get hit with quite a few units and a fresh gun commander with a veterancy. So while Achieved does have superior HP by about 2k and a bit more regen, he's not going to be able to survive against that hit. Congreve knows that. Jaguar has to pull all of his units, and now he's hitting from the southern side, coming in against that base. This is not going to go well for Jaguar at all. The best he can hope for in this specific instance, I think, is a mutual, but I don't think he'll even be able to pull that off. Yep, throwing out the GG right there. And that is going to be the end of Achieved Jaguar on this particular map. That damage is absurd. The Zooey's wrecking his face. Congreve down to 7,000 HP at the final moment. That is an absurd number of factories. And the mass stall was real, but I think what we learned from that was that even though the factories were probably too great in number, I think Achieved didn't have to have as many factories. I think he just needed 3 or 4 extras, maybe 5. But every second that Congreve was able to suck up any mass at all, he instantly cycled it into more tanks. He was running a hard stall the entire time. The only thing that it bit him on was that gun upgrade. And that is just a terrifying amount of production. And the tanks on the map speak to that. So that was the first win for Congreve. We're going to move on to the next round. If he wins again, that is going to be the final. If he doesn't, Chief Jaguar still has to win twice to take this tournament. I'm going to go ahead and back out of here. We're going to hop into the next game, which hopefully Jaguar has already hosted. The next map is going to be Pelagial, however you pronounce this thing. It is version 2. I have played this on a couple of different occasions, and it bit me in the buttocks on a variety of such, because I think, if I remember correctly, this is the map that Jonas actually tac missiled me on point blank in a ladder matchup. So watch out for those tac missiles on this map, guys. They can be brutal. Of course, in the upper right, we have Congreve, as we have in every case since we started the final. And Achieved Jaguar is on the bottom left, both Seraphim, of course. Now, there are some civilian buildings here. Those are worth a fair amount of mass, so you want to incorporate those into your build. You got 3 mass extractors, hydro close by, so you are going to want to rush that. And then there we see Achieved Jaguar building the traditional second air factory that will go for a transport and try to get a foothold on 1 or more of the expansions. Triax, appreciate the resub, man. 3 months in. That is going to be 162 mass per, so not quite 500 mass in the 3 buildings there. And then if these hold true, which I think they do, they're all UEF residentials. That is going to be close to 800 mass out here, if Brink can math correctly. That is going to be what, 340 for each? So 700, more like 900 mass. Close to 1,000 mass on the expansion. So definitely make sure that you get those on the outside edges. Congreve is also going for an air factory, but I think we are going to see him building an interceptor, probably. That actually looks like a scout, followed by an interceptor. This is play and counterplay, where you get into the meta of the maps. Basically, you know that your opponent wants to get a transport as early as possible, and you also know that if you shoot down that transport, you can slow down his expansion by a significant degree. So it ends up being players going head-to-head trying to outthink each other. So Achieved is also going Scout and Interceptor, but he's going slightly slower than Congreve because he got additional power generators built. And he is also trying to get an engineer out to the outside edge to build on this island. So Achieved is ahead in the very earliest portion of the game. Neither player ended up with a transport, although I would think that it's queued probably after Interceptor number 3. The idea of the mind games is to be able to shoot down your opponent's transport while also not having your own transport shot down. And in this particular instance, Asperger is short a couple of interceptors versus Jaguar's numbers, so Jaguar should be able to swoop in and get this transport, but he does not have it scouted because the scout got shot down by the initial interceptor across. It's kind of interesting to think about these things. It's like over time, people play and counterplay and counterplay, and eventually you settle into this rhythm where a couple of interceptors at the start is generally accepted to be the best idea. Jaguar does have his own transport up now, a bit slower than Congreve, but he is going to be able to expand. I think that he is a little ahead. He's already got both of his forward mass extractors. He's got his outside island extractor. He is going to be able to move in here with this engineer and get a little bit of reclaim going on, but he hasn't touched his outside mexes there. So it's a bit difficult to tell who is actually ahead on this. Looks like Congreve is already starting his naval spam. We got 3 naval factories queued up. Those will, of course, be going for frigates. I would not recommend upgrading a naval factory in a tight space like that because you will end up with severe pathfinding issues in the T2 and T3 phases. Not that this game will get to T3 in the Navy, but just saying at T2 even, you might struggle with some issues. Congreve doing an excellent job expanding. So we had 1 engineer here that was able to get these mass extractors built. We've got 2 more, though, that have not been claimed. Then we've got 3 land factories going down for territory denial, along with a final engineer over on this edge that will get the remaining mass extractors along with a radar to tell what is going on and what is coming in. Jaguar is a bit slower on his mass pickup, but he is going to get a land factory down as well, and has dropped both ends of the islands as well as his outside edge here. So he is going to be pulling in mass at a sufficient pace to keep track with Congreve. That's going to be a total of 4 air factories online for Jaguar, and I would love to see what his power income looks like right now. We're going to go set focus army 0 and see which player that is. That is Jaguar. He is balanced perfectly in the midst of his storage, which is a lovely thing to see. 520 power with a bit of reclaim on the side and 39 mass per tick. If we go to set focus army 1, we've got 480, so a bit of a power deficit there, headed for a hard power stall due to probably power building, yes, a land factory there. So that's going to be a little bit more balanced, but also still power stalling. And then he's at 55 mass income down to, yeah, I think we're going to call that 55. When he's not power stalling, that is the level of his income. So 55 to 44-ish, although Jaguar is also stalling. I see a 51. 55 to 51 is how we're going to call it. We're going to say neck and neck. Moving up to the northern edge, I was expecting halfway to see some transporting shenanigans, but I think that the air has probably scared that away. Looks like Jaguar is a bit slower to claim his own island, though, which is slightly frustrating to see. For T2 mass extractors, we do have 2 in Jaguar's base. I think we have another upgrading currently. And over on Congreve's side, we've got 2 here as well, with 3 and 4 on the way. This is a delicate balance to run because you have to decide how much can I delay Navy, how much can I delay combat units in order to get more economy online, because the bigger your economy gets, obviously, the more units you're going to be able to produce later. The problem arises when your opponent has produced many units during the entire time that your factories weren't online, you still need a bit of space to be able to bring your production online and get everything set. Also, this is a horrifying amount of T1 bombers, and I'm kind of terrified of what's going to happen when those eventually collide with something. Neither player seems to be doing a hard rush on Navy or land for drops, so I think we're actually in a position where both of these guys are going, for the most part, for eco-whoring. There is a drop over here. We've got one T1 transport that's loosing Zooies into the world, which will probably be an unpleasant experience for everyone, to be sure. But it definitely could be worse, and the ACU is on this edge, able to move in and eliminate that threat before it comes onto his main island. In comes the air. That is going to be a strong air win for Achieved, and holy mother of Shift G commands. This is not going to be good. Let's watch in real time. Oh, dearie, dearie me. 700 power income. There goes the T2 engineers. That was a lot of power loss, but thankfully there is enough of a surplus that it's not the end of the world. Look at the mass overflow incoming. To keep himself from stalling, he very nearly had to overflow. I think he will have to. Oh my goodness. And the power stall begins. That was a critical hit. We're also probably going to see more power building on the outside edges, or at least I would hope. Maybe not. Maybe not, oddly enough. So when you're in a situation like that, you not only have to figure the impact of the bombers directly, T2 air over here as well. Because, of course, the power generators that were killed were very valuable and potentially forced him into a power stall. You also have to think about the fact that he spam built all these T1 anti-airs in a panic to try and eliminate all of those bombers. And that was a lot of mass wasted on his part, in addition to losing out on the T2 engineers that were in a position to build the power that he so desperately needed. So basically everything slowed down. Jaguar took a 2,000 point lead on that, and in the meantime has been able to pull up enough Navy to deny the frigates that were harassing his outside edges and get everything rebuilt. So all in all, I think that this has put him in a pretty dang good position. This could be a little bit of a problem over here. Definitely something you don't want to have happening, but we'll just have to see how much damage it can actually do. Jaguar is at 77 mass per tick, and Congreve at 83. 1,200 power for Congreve, and Jaguar is at 1,500. Both of these guys are turning into economic powerhouses. But I think that this will be a bit of a bitter pill for Achieved to swallow, having all of this turn up. Where is that T2 transport full of stuff? There it is. It's flying around to the back to go wreak some havoc over there. Meanwhile, a T2 gunship has moved in to take out 3 mass extractors and a T1 radar. So well worth it on that raid, although it is not going to be able to finish off the final mass extractor. 4 frigates versus 2 frigates in this direct engagement. We do have Zooies over here and 3 additional frigates on that side. I'm not sure. I am not sure that Jaguar will be able to stop all of this. The gunships are definitely going to help. Why does that keep popping up? Maybe people are pinging some kind of message in there. I don't know. What I do know is that this is going to be utter devastation. We have got Zooies on the ground, inside the shield. Oh, the reclaim! Sucking up those Zooies like no tomorrow with the engineers. Sometimes it is the only thing that you can do to respond. The Zooies had to get the hell out of Dodge. And that is going to leave this base relatively untouched for the time being. Lost a couple of minor buildings, but no power generators. We've also got the T2 engineers available that can build a point defense to deny all of that. Meanwhile, Jaguar's losing out on quite a bit of build power and a T2 power generator. Ouch. That is going to hurt him a lot more than Congreve was. And Congreve has also got another transport in with a load of Zooies that are going to eliminate factories, mass extractors, everything they can possibly get their grubby little mitts on. Oh, dearie, dearie me. One T2 mass extractor lost over there versus a T2 mass extractor, a T2 power generator, lots of build power, some T1 power generators here and here, and it looks like possibly another T2 mechs. Nope, not enough bullets in the air. Hard hit indeed. As far as frigates go, we've got 6, 7, 8, 10 on the right, 3 on the left, versus 5 in total frigates. Oh, dearie, dearie me. Jaguar, I think, has gotten himself outbuilt in Navy. And while he did have monumental amounts of air control just a minute ago, Congreve has actually pulled together enough interceptors to deny any significant air push from Achieved. These gunships might be able to change it for Jaguar, though, because they will be able to meet shield for an air fight, maybe get that air win, and in the meantime, do as much damage as possible to as many things as possible. You'll notice all of the T2 mass extractors in the outside expansions for Congreve. He has teched up like mad, and the Inties pulled back and the gunships didn't. What was that crap? Jaguar could have killed every single interceptor in that group because of the tailing there, and he simply did not. Oh, that was physically painful. People in the chat commenting, look at the score. It is such an even game. Remember that the score can be artificially inflated in certain ways. It is not the be-all and end-all of how the game is going. I would look more at economic potential and build power. And if we look at both of those things, Congreve is decisively ahead. So we're going to pull... Jaguar is at 71 income in a hard power stall, so he most likely has more mass than that, but simply can't get it on. Oh, he's going for tactical missile. What is your range, good sir? He is going to try to kill all of the T2 mass extractors on this island walking out this way. But there is a cruiser up. That is going to throw a massive wrench in the works. Oh, dear Lord. That's bad. 97 mass per tick for him versus 115. So the economy is slightly ahead for Congreve, but Congreve is just systematically disassembling him with drops, and that is one of the most frustrating things to watch. Another transport coming in, dropping off its payload and sticking around to provide intel and a little bit of anti-air. The transport with the ACU in it. Looks like Jaguar was possibly going for an ACU drop. He is indeed. He's going to drop over on this side away from the cruiser. Where is that T2 naval factory? Right up there, disguised under all of the engineer clumps over there. That cruiser is going to be directly in front of the base. Gotta get that TMD, man. There it is. Alright, so if he gets that online, he should be relatively okay. But if he drops here and succeeds in tac missiling some things, he might actually be able to come out ahead. However, T2 radar here has picked up the drop, and we do have immediate building of T2 point defense in the base, probably anticipating a direct commander drop, but with that amount of T2 build power, TMD is not going to be a difficult thing to get up. Jaguar is tac missiling. What are you tac missiling, good sir? Probably the mass extractors that you can reach. Let's go take a look back at the base over here. No problemo. TMD is in place. No danger whatsoever. However, there are more cruisers coming in, so things could still get a little sketchy as time goes on. Jaguar underneath the frigates. He has been scouted now, so possible torpedo bomber snipe incoming. Looks like Inty's being built. Yes. Inty's. Why you no-go for many of the torp bombers? Probably because there's another drop coming in over here. If this drop kills the TMD, that is going to pretty much screw over everything that Jaguar is trying to do. A flak of any sort in the main base would be an excellent idea at this point, because a single flak shot to the underside of a transport takes out every single artillery that is being carried. It is a shame that that wasn't in place, because that would have decimated that drop, or at least one of the drops. We've got several T2 mass extractors sniped there, but alas, I don't think it will be enough. T2 point defense there. We've got tac defense coming up there. Jaguar, I think the best option would be to start tac missiling the naval factories. But at this point, I don't know that that is even an option, because the main base is disintegrating, and there's already so many frigates in the water that I don't think Jaguar can hope to come free of them. This is not a good sign. He also had... Oh, there went the T2 power. Ow, chihuahuas. Okay. I think with that, we can officially say that this is most likely good game. Because I think that is what was keeping Jaguar alive on his tac missile builds. There goes that. Let's actually take a look at the intel on this. Jaguar does know that there's a shield there. I don't know why he's still attacking that. That seems a little bit futile. Congreve pulling off another drop in the base. Jaguar down to stalling for between 50 and 200 power, and down to 57 mass per tick. And Congreve, on the other hand, rocking with 113 solid income, perfect eco balance with 1,000 power overflow. I think we can officially call that good game. Unless something really dumb happens. I guess Congreve could still manage to get himself killed. But I think the likelihood of that is quite insignificant. Oh, look at that. He's actually still got air control. That is surprising. This is exactly what Congreve did to the other player as well that we saw. Even though he didn't have air control, he just absolutely wrecked everything with T2 drops. That is so ridiculous. It may have been a lack of... Yeah, it may have been a lack of radar coverage. Probably was. Maybe a lack of being proactive with the air, going across and securing air control purposefully. But... oh my goodness. Trying to page through chat real quick, but I am not following some of the stuff that's going on. I'm just kind of at this point waiting for Achieved to die. Achieved was scared too much. That could actually be a legitimate... Oh! Launched attack! No! It almost collided with the frigates. He almost got all of those frigates with attack. If you take like 2 steps over, you could kill every single one of those frigates with 1 tac missile. Just 1 step. That... oh, there it went. One frigate moved just a little bit too far to the north. That's awesome. Congreve could accidentally control K. That is definitely sure. That's sure thing. I doubt that he will accidentally control K. Oh my goodness, he just got the RAS upgrade. How the hell do you even have the time to get the RAS upgrade in a game like this? Jaguar's just letting it happen. He's got the air units to deny it, but there it goes. And Congreve takes the tourney. So I think that what we have learned here today is that if you're going up against Seraphim and it's a large map, you need to get your air control because Zooey drops are freaking devastating. I would like to point out that they are very strong, but they cost significantly more than other factions' artillery drops. Zooey's cost about 50% more per artillery than the opposing faction's T1 Arty. And the Aeon T1 Arty is capable of arguably more base damage than the Zooey's. However, they don't hover. And that 50% mass increase is strictly because of the hovering. So for the amount of mass that is spent on the Zooey's that are being dropped, you should be able to get up stationary flak in a couple places, mobile flak. You should be able to outbuild the other player on interceptors for sure, because they're spending all of the mass on transports and on artillery. It is something that can be countered. However, it is difficult, not gonna lie, and it is a pain in the butt when they actually land, and it is very difficult to get frustrated with the game and how it is going. Yeah, so many air factories, so much air, but no real control, says Mista. And I think a large part of it is just being proactive. Because the problem with T2 transports versus interceptors is that the transports have almost the same flight speed as the Inties. The Inties are not going to be able to catch up to them and shoot them down. You have to get them on the intercept, which means that you need radar coverage over a large area to be able to see them coming in. You need a good response time with your clusters of Inties, and they will be able to shoot the transports down if you have that. And then you should also try to proactively go and seize air control. There was a few T1 anti-airs in the base, which I think actually got reclaimed and cycled into more mass. But if you're talking about you have half again the amount of interceptors that your opponent does and you are denying drops, it's worth it to lose a few interceptors on the other side of the map just to seize air control. But anyway, that is all speculation. Congreve takes the win. Well played, dude, and yeah, keep on dropping. You pretty much clinched the entire tournament just with the freaking Zooey's. Well done indeed. That is gonna wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.